What does the power of your mindset of being on the water give to you as a leader in your company?
I think it would be that it gives me confidence in my ability and in my quick decision making, kind of going with the flow, knowing that things that happen on land kind of mimic what happened on the ocean, but in a less clear way. Obviously in the ocean, you have to ride the wave that's given to you. In the world, on land with people, it's less obvious because it's not literally a wave, and there's definitely ebbs and flows of life on land, and finding that similarity in the topology of life, if you will, is really, really helpful, I think.
Welcome to Journey to June. I'm your host, Wendy Basilico, and we have a really cool guest, actually the owner of this podcast studio. His name is Justin Bruns, and he owns this amazing company called Wavelength. We dive into everything from his childhood of having his mother be a creator and holding that space for him, and his windsurfing. I guess it's windsurfing, but he goes into all the creative things that have brought him to this moment of time of what he's leading in this creative work he's doing here in Jupiter, Florida. So tune in. He's amazing, and you're really going to enjoy this one. Welcome, Justin Bruns. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
I was just so excited to have you on here for various reasons. Some that I want to explore with your kite surfing, but also your business and also how you got to where you are. And just so the listeners know, I actually do this podcast in Justin's office or space. That's amazing. So just tell us where you're at, what you're doing. Let's start off there. So welcome.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. Welcome to Wavelength Studios. This is a studio in Jupiter, Florida, where we do everything for content production, social media management, graphic design, website design. And it's right here in Jupiter. It's in a really welcoming beachside frontage. And we're in the podcast studio today.
And we are, and I love it here. So let's start, how did this company, how did you come up with the vision? I know you're a creator, and I want to just tap into how did Wavelength, how was it born? Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's a long story.
Yeah,
but
it would be hard to even put it to one moment or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's obviously the culmination of so many different things in my life, in my partner's life, my business partner's life. So
let's go back to your childhood.
Okay.
Let's
go that far back. Yes.
Yeah, let's go back that way.
Okay.
You grew up here,
yes.
Correct?
Yep.
Which is so cool because my mission is to interview because I've moved here 2 years ago, and I'm just curious about companies like yours doing really cool incentives of what their creative side and bringing it to the world of Jupiter and out there. Mm-hmm. But when you grew up, you're a creator, and it's funny because I'm the athlete, and then I think I'm not a creator, but then I realize I am a creator. So when you were young, tell us how did you experience, I have a daughter who's 11, so go around that age of I see her wanting something, and did you have that in you, I guess?
Yeah, so, when I was, super young, it's kind of two things. So my mom at the time was a photographer. She did aerial photography back long before when people had drones. Wow. You would take pictures out of a helicopter. I think it was primarily for real estate. And I remember we would summer on Lake Michigan, and I remember she gave me this camera. It was a film camera, of course, and it was this elongated, flat looking thing, and it was really unique, and it was waterproof. And so I could take it on the sailboat with us. I could take it to the beach and get it sandy, and it would be sealed off and watertight. And I just remember that being looking through the eyepiece and capturing moments of sailing and all those things. I remember that being one of the first oh, I really like this. It was something that I connected with, and the fact that I could bring it with me anywhere was kind of a really special thing.
So you grew up in Michigan? Or grew up
Partly,
here?
partly, yeah. So my family is from Chicago, my parents rather, and they have a cottage on Lake Michigan, on the directly east of Chicago, so like the bottom edge of the lake there. It's like a small like little wooden cabin that you can only be there in the summer. It's not insulated or anything, and so we would go there every summer. So when I'm out of school, we would go up and spend the whole summer up there and have a separate group of friends, and we go sailing and wakeboarding and just lakeside activities like that.
So
Yeah.
from the get-go, you've been on the water, no matter if it's Jupiter water or Michigan.
Exactly.
And obviously, creator, you had a mom. What was special about, like, when you think of your mom and her raising you, or your father?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what did she bring out what you have now? Like,
Yeah, I would say I would attribute to both of my parents. They were just very like open and like really let me embrace whatever interested me in the moment. Like regardless of how like transient it may have been, they were always very supportive of all the things that I like found interesting. I just remember that like never like the cliche of in movies where you see like, oh, the dad doesn't want you to play this sport, they want you to play that sport or something, like, or they don't want you like working on computers, they want you like playing football.
Yeah.
And I just never felt that, and I can't really resonate with that whenever I see that in movies. I don't know if that's actually like
no,
a thing
it
in the
is.
world, but
It's like it is out there. I mean, I
Yeah.
see it as a parent at this age, so it's funny that you say that, because as a creator, or even my daughter who's 11 into theater and singing, it's a different road than the athlete. But also there's a lot of push. There wasn't a push when I grew up, but I don't know if I was also embraced in the gifts that I had, if that makes sense. Not intentionally.
Yep.
Like, my parents loved me, but it was more just like flowing through it. Not, you got this. I
Yeah.
don't know, or like giving you a space. And I'm really working hard with my daughter, so I hear that you had the space to explore whatever was coming through you.
Yep.
Correct?
Yep.
Brothers, sisters,
Younger sister. Yep.
same experience, would you say?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Is she a creator as well?
Nope. She is an ultrasound technician.
Interesting.
So she followed the same path that my father. My father owned an ultrasound company, and she does that. She does it for animals, I believe. So she works at a veterinary office and does that. And she definitely took the path of being like, she loves animals. She still is very deep in horseback riding.
Yeah.
We always, growing up in Jupiter, we grew up in Jupiter Farms. We always had a ton of different animals, and she was like very much the animal person.
So you guys were literally outside
Yeah.
all the time.
Yep.
Animals, water,
Yep.
active, creative.
Yep.
Do you remember a time, like, in the creative world, is it hard to know what path to take? I mean, so we're talking childhood, but as you grew through high school, obviously you played some sports because you're athletic.
Yep.
But
mostly water sports through high school. I played like basketball, like camps and things like that. Also, when I was even younger still, I played baseball. My dad was very much in the sport, so we had a half-court basketball court in our driveway, like properly painted, like really nice setup. I love basketball. I don't play as much as I used to, but I still got game. I can still shoot.
So your sport was water.
Yes.
Like water sports.
Yeah, that was always my like go-to default. Because I found that you like with basketball, yeah, you can shoot, whatever, do things, but like it was always so much more like there was so much more variety in the ocean. And I like that. I like that I could go out there by myself and it would always be different.
So explain to me further.
The field of play is always changing. Yeah.
So you knew that, you felt that at a young age.
Yep.
The desire to like, wow, this is cool. Like, I am reinventing every time. I got to figure out whatever's navigating, whatever's coming at me.
Yes.
When
I just love the variety of it. Yeah.
Isn't it? I was just thinking that why don't they have school, like, we are on the ocean, why don't they have school sports around the waters?
I know. Well, they kind of did. They had like a surf thing. When
Yeah, you
I
would
remember
think
like a surf
so.
team, but um, there's something it's like less of a team sport, like all of those things.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what attracted me, honestly, is I can go and like have an amazing time and not have to like coordinate with people or whatever. Like it's just like
Yeah.
an escape. You can just go and just do it, and it's always just epic and yeah. That isn't to say it's really fun doing it with friends.
No, but I mean,
Yeah.
even like golf or you
Right.
got skiing. I
Right.
mean, when I lived in the ski town, they have the
Yeah.
ski town. So I'm just curious
There-
why there isn't like a push for schools to like use the water to explore, because you
Mhm.
obviously learned about yourself
Mhm.
through it.
A lot. Yes.
So what did you learn about yourself being on the water for the times Michigan here? Like when you think back when you were young to now, like you still do kite surfing.
Mhm.
What did you learn how do you navigate like how you've grown through being on water?
Wow.
See, you didn't have that question when I when I was like researching. I was like, I'm going to ask him some interesting
That's
questions.
yeah. I mean, for me, it's almost like kind of like a state of meditation, because
Mhm.
you're just out there. It's just you and nature, and it just requires all of your focus, and everything else just like leaves your mind, and you're just away
Mm.
from the world, and you're just in this other place,
Mm.
and it's very it's freeing, it's quiet, it's peaceful, in its chaos.
It's funny.
It's crazy.
As I'm
Yeah.
sitting here, I'm like, it's what people probably are yearning for
Mm-hmm.
in life, or they're seeking peace, calm, and you have to put yourself in a situation that's vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And I've only surfed a couple times, and I remember feeling that way because you're like, no, it's like a bubble.
Yeah.
Like nobody's around you, and you're just like,
There's no electronics.
no,
There's just
nothing
you and the
takes you
wind.
away.
Yeah.
So it's obviously I have to step into this.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the guy I just went to? I met a guy, Gwen. He's from France. He was pretty
Mm-hmm.
cool.
Gwen's awesome.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's a big
He's a legend.
windsurfer.
He's very talented.
Yeah, he's like
Insane.
teacher. I'm like, you
Yep.
teach beginners.
He has
He's
a
like,
YouTube
yeah.
channel. He does
Yeah.
all this cool stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
check it out. Yeah.
But I was like, is it capable for me at 52 to take on such a sport? I don't know, but it's worth trying.
Hell yeah, it is.
Yeah, see? I got my little motivator here. Give me, since we're on the surf topic, give me a time where you like were tested. Like a moment where you're like, what the hell am I doing out here? Or I don't know.
Yeah.
I know I'm throwing this at you, but there's got to be a moment that you were like, that was a crazy day, or
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's been a lot of those.
because you go out during the storms when
Yeah,
they come. Like you
Hurricanes
guys,
are great. I like
hurricanes are good. I always find it amazing at the beach, and you're walking down, and like you're barely hanging on to the
Yeah,
wind, and there's
yep.
people going out
Yep.
with,
You're strapped in, and you're
they're
going
they're
out
like
there.
licking their chops,
Yeah.
ready to go. You're one of those.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I
But-
guess
yeah.
it's when it's a combination of very windy and very big waves. That's something where like you're like the margin of error is very small, and that's you have to be more alert. It's less leisurely. A lot of times here in Jupiter, it's very beautiful and peaceful, and it's like sunny, and you have crystal clear water. But you know, when the hurricanes come through, the water's dark, it's overcast, it's windy, there's no one on the beach. It's like a war zone. And you go out there, and it's a totally different experience. It's less of a vacation and more of a
Testing your
a
limits.
test of limits of what's possible. Yeah.
So you crave that.
Yeah, once you do it, you're like, all right, I'm good for a while. You want another beautiful day with the sun, and you see the umbrellas on the beach, and everyone's hanging out. But, yeah, we haven't had one of those days in a long time. We had fortunately like a really relaxed, hurricane season. Didn't have many big storms this year, but yeah, it's definitely exciting, and it gets the blood flowing. And you after a session, and you see everybody, and you talk about it afterwards. You're like, that was insane. The waves were breaking like a mile off the beach. It's just yeah.
I'm not a surfer, but I do know Laird Hamilton. I sat with him, and when he talked about the giant wave that he would, you can see it even when I sat and watched the movie with him,
Whoa.
non-surfer, and I remember sitting with him and watching him come out of the hole of
Mm-hmm.
what he had surfed, and like the eyes that like, whoa, I just did that. And I think that's part of what I not think, I know that is part of a necessity
Mm-hmm.
for us as humans to push our limit, to see what our potential is. And I think it's so cool because you're not doing it at a competition. Laird's not even doing it.
Right.
Like he was doing it for his own push.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when you do that, when you push your edge, are you conscious of like what you learned in that moment? Like, do you really go, not just like the whoa, but like does something shift in you?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's I almost yeah. Yeah, when you then you go and have a session like that, and then you go and, for instance, like you go walk around Publix and you are with people that are just like, hiding in their houses after a hurricane or whatever, and you were just like in the ocean, like battling giant waves, and you're like just there, and you're like, these people have no idea that I was just like out there doing this crazy shit. And you just feel like very like like you just feel like in a different mindset for sure. You're like very separated in a way that like, wow, this is like,
You're more awake, would
yeah,
you say?
yeah, like alert, alive. I don't know. It's weird. It's hard to explain, but yeah, you're just like,
Are you
I can imagine it's what like, I don't know, being like a soldier or something would be like. You went to war and came back,
you survived?
and you like made it, and like you could just
Yeah.
be walking among normal people, and or people that aren't in putting themselves in like crazy scenarios,
Yeah.
and no one would know the difference. And it's just like, I don't know, it's just like such a trippy thing
What do you think?
in that type of condition. Of course, like
Course.
when you're like having the beautiful day and the waves are small and it's like sunny and all that stuff, it's one thing. But when you're out there and it's like people are like literally boarding up their houses and you're like out in the ocean.
And you're choosing
Yeah.
to be in it.
And it's
instead
not
of-
as dangerous as you like. I'm very, very skilled. I would not recommend anyone that hasn't done this for years. I've been doing this since I was 10 years old. Like, to go do that. And at a certain point, like I like to say that the kite, like in kite surfing, the kite is your superpower. Like it allows you to like fly like Spider-Man. You can jump around. You can dodge things. Like you can hop like 200, like 20 feet in the air. And you can get away and if you do it properly and you're very controlled, you can get out of any scenario. As long as that kite stays in the air. Like when I teach people, I'm like, keep that kite in the air. That's your superpower. Like do not let that come down, because once you do that, you lose your superpower.
Got it.
Yeah.
And has there been a moment that you've lost the kite
Yes. And then you swim.
and then you swim? So do you, when you're in that push your edge in a hurricane or
Mhm.
very treacherous, what we would consider like, whoa, that I would never go out there. Do you have, I think of it like skiing, and you're, in the back country,
Mm-hmm.
and you have like a real clear idea of, if you get in trouble,
Mm-hmm.
I have a team, or I have is there in surfing, do you go out, you're not out there by yourself, like are there people out there so you're watching each other, like how I'm just curious because
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Yeah, normally there's like you ride in a certain area with people, or a lot of times what we do is we do something called a downwinder,
Uh-huh.
which is the wind is either blowing like from one way or the other, like straight down the beach, like parallel to the beach.
Uh-huh.
And so you can start like say, do you know where the Juneau Pier is?
Yeah.
And you can start there and you ride down to like the inlet or something. And so what we do is we drive a car and we like leave a car down at the inlet, and then we drive upwind and then ride down to that car. And it's just way better because you can explore all the different waves along the way, and you get to ride with
And
a
you're
group
not
of people,
fighting
and
it,
you're
yeah.
not all crammed in one spot, and you just get to explore the beach.
Is
And
that what you do when there's a hurricane? Like
sometimes
yeah,
Mhm.
it depends on the wind.
on the wind direction, correct?
Got it,
Yeah.
got it.
Yep. But yes, typically riding together. But it's nice to not be so cramped. Like a lot of times, the beach right here, there's a lot of people riding in one place. It can be pretty crowded. And my default is just doing downwinders because you have you don't have to stay near your car and ride in one place.
Yeah.
You can kind of just go. You're like, oh, there's a wave over there, and you go and you capture that wave, and then you keep. Oh, there's another one. You go and get that one. You're just kind of like frolicking in the ocean. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so you obviously push your edge. You obviously feel like have superpower when you're looking around at everybody who has been hidden in the hurricane.
Yep.
But what does that do for you as a owner of Wavelength, which I love the name? But what does that do for you in the power? Because I know how it is to run your own company, and it's not. You created something from nothing, but then you're also leading, and you have a lot of moving parts. But your gift is creativity. But then you have to also run the show on the back end.
Yep.
So what does that do for you as a CEO and founder of Wavelength?
The kite surfing aspect of it. How does that?
Like just your mindset of it. Like what does that do for you? Of maybe it's belief, or maybe it's confidence, or because I know myself in running a company, like I'm great with humans, and I'm great at bringing out their gifts. But in the back end, I'm learning it, and I'm also learning how to manage people in a way that I feel fit for what I'm trying to create in the world. But it's still we have our gifts, and then we go, oh, we're running a company, and then there's a lot of other things that you have to hold. But what is the power of your mindset of being on the water give to you as a leader in your company? I guess that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I think it would be that I just it gives me confidence. Yeah. Confidence in my ability and in my quick decision making. Kind of going with the flow, knowing that the things that happen on land kind of mimic what happened on the ocean, but in a less clear way. Like obviously in the ocean, you have to ride the wave that's given to you. In the world, like on land with people, it's less obvious because it's not literally a wave, and there's definitely ebbs and flows of life on land, and finding that similarity in the topology of life, if you will, is really, really helpful, I think.
I love how you just said that. I think because it's not tangible,
right?
What we're doing, whether, that's why sport is so cool, because whether you're on the water or me playing golf, there's such a parallel to how really the way we live our life. And if we embrace it, and that's why I love what I do, because we're not, majority of people are not taught the ebb and flow of life, and when to flow and when to push.
Yeah, when to be strong and when to give in.
Yeah, I love that. And you feel like that you're really in tune with that when you're leading. Give me an example.
I try to, at least.
Yeah, give me an example.
I definitely wipe out still.
Give me an example where you were tested as a leader at work or whatever, in creative moment that might have, maybe a shoot didn't go as well, or maybe a business deal, like you thought you had the deal and it didn't go through, or.
I mean, yeah, there's countless moments. I guess it would.
Like, how do you in those moments? Like, how do you lead to help the people underneath you see that it's okay when you have those moments? That, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Being in the creative industry, when we provide our clients with a finished product, it's very important to understand that, when we give them something, that it's not necessarily like we are the all-seeing, all-knowing end thing. Like, they have their own vision for what they were expecting, and being flexible, giving to their own expectations, being very amicable to their own vision. Even though we're the experts, we try to advise on those kind of things, but being flexible in our own vision, I think, is the most important thing. And I try to distill that on my team too. So yeah, I would say that that's maybe the best correlation there is just, being flexible.
adaptable, flexible.
Adaptable. Mm-hmm.
It is true. Like, even if I'm coaching, like, I am bringing out what's inside of them that they don't know, and I'm trying to stir the pot to bring it out. And I'm sure you're doing the same as a brand, even if they have the brand, even if I have Live Your June and I think I know what it is.
Yep.
There's always another layer of uncovering the next version of it. And I think that's true to brands, to humans.
Yep.
So I think as a creator, we can learn. What would you tell the listeners if they struggle with, because a lot of people want to know the answer. They probably come, help me market it so I can, even me coming here, I was like, I need to get some marketing from Justin. I got to get in here. But even that, like, it comes from within me.
Yeah.
So, like, how do you also, I don't want to say coach, but navigate a client that doesn't see that as clearly as to be in the I didn't. Let's just say this brand, Live Your June, took my whole life, let alone, but 2 years to even get out of my head, to even put a fingerprint. And my girlfriend who was helping me, she was like, it's a process. Like, it doesn't just happen. So how do you help people that are trying to get to the next level of scaling their business or whatever, and you're still working through the branding part? Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So you're saying someone who's like still working through the branding and how like,
yes.
So I would say it's like, at least my process, it's evolution. And it's identifying, who they are, what they do, kind of like the discovery process is the most important process. And so, that's just a big part of it.
And it's so, because you think you got it. And then there's always something that, because life is evolution, like you said.
Think about it, all brands evolve, like all of them, there's like small, you've seen, I'm sure, like all of the different fonts of the luxury designers are changing from like the script to the sans serif and all that. So it's no brand is immune to evolution, and to, we try to make that clear too, is like, hey, like this is, the brand that we've developed for you. Like we work with you collaboratively, and, what do you think? It's very much a conversation. We don't just like give you something and be like, all right, done, bye.
When you think a brand is strong, do you think it comes because the people running it are strong in themselves? Like, you know what I mean? Because I believe in that, because it's not just you putting a brand out. Like, you have to own, it's even when I'm talking to you, like, who you are is your brand, Wavelength, like, and I think, a lot of people put brands out there, but then they don't connect to that brand, or it like doesn't make sense. Like, how do you describe like the coolest brand maybe that you have worked with that you're like, oh, that's why, like, they're so in tune with?
Yep. It's super important. Every good brand has a leader behind it, or a person behind it that is, the brand couldn't exist without them. That's what it comes down to. All the greatest companies in history, you could say that about it. It's a visionary that's behind it. Whether they're there still or not, it doesn't matter, but they've, had their impact on it. And, once that rocket ship has, left the atmosphere, that's the hardest part, is getting to space.
And you've always been that creator. So like, let's go there. Like, I think this is what I'm watching as a mother with young children, how we almost numb that. We kind of put them in a box, or it's like, you said at the beginning, like, you got to play this sport, or you got to be a doctor, or whatever it is. And
you impose your own vision on them.
Of course,
I would almost feel like I would do that. I'd be like, oh, like, these are the greatest things. You should kite surf because of all these reasons. You got to kite surf. Like, it sets you up for success. It allows you to understand. It's like, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, no matter how hard that be. Yes. So, and grappling with that is definitely going to be tough.
Yeah, but
But yeah.
like to me, listening to you, and I don't know you for very long, but I feel like you have such a passion around your creativity, and you own it at a human level. So how do you describe when you're in your zone of creativity of when you're working? Like I watched you did a shoot with me, the way you're like setting up this podcast studio. I mean, I've met you for a year. I've kind of been learning of how you operate. But yeah, when you're in the zone, what does it feel like to be the creator that you are?
What does it feel like?
Hard to put in words.
I don't know. Yeah, it's a lot of things. The biggest part of it for me is like, pre-visualizing, like always thinking one step ahead. That's a lot of what's going through my head is like, what is this going to look like if I do that? And then where is this going to go? And, it's the one thing that we didn't really touch on, but is video games. And so I feel that was also a big part of my growing up. And I feel like that kind of set me up for the pre-visualization aspect of things. Like I can imagine what things look like in a frame because, when you're playing a video game, you're looking at things through a frame and you can imagine like positioning a character that's not you in another 3D space. And so I attribute that like 3D pre-visualization to my time playing video games as a kid. Lots of games and that stuff. So that's kind of the stuff that's going through my head is like, just kind of how are things going to look and my ability to like imagine that inside of before it even happens. Yeah.
So it's a gift and you've trained it through
video
games.
Indirectly, of course.
Not knowingly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
But that's a bit. Yeah, you see me like in my head, like
yes,
moving
I
stuff
can
around.
See it.
And
I can see how.
And I'm like thinking about how I'm like, does that go there? Like, let's do that. Yeah. So it's, and that also applies to business too. Like you have to be able to pre-visualize decisions that you make and see how that plays out. It's all about like prediction and attempting to make good decisions.
And then
creatively and in business. Yeah.
But intentionality, as I also hear, like yes, it's planning, but there's intent to it, and then
to reach that point. Yeah.
Yes, and then like when something's telling you to go that way, and that is the gift of the creator, because I think most business. They want to put a goal out there and they want to stick at it. And it's not, the gift is actually when you actually fail.
Yep.
It's bringing you somewhere else that's even greater.
That you couldn't imagine.
Yes. By having the imagination in the first place.
Striving for something and then being like, oh, that didn't work, but let's go here because that presented itself. Yep. And it happens on every scale. It happens on like, years, and it happens on every hour. It's like it happens everywhere, and it's it's
if you're open,
you try to like understand that, but and like be aware of it.
How do you personally put words to that? Like, is it yes, it's a gift, but what's your belief of what's coming through you in the power of creativity and imagination? How do you explain that? Is it universe, trust, God? Like, what is that to you?
What do you mean? Like if I were to just put a word to it?
I don't know.
Yeah. I would say it's like, for like lack of a better word, gut reaction. Like it's
instinct.
Instinct, yeah.
Yeah, trusting it.
Yeah. Trusting the ability to make a good choice. Yeah, like and knowing that if it's not that big of a deal.
Well said. How do you trust your instinct? Like, what is it that's happening in your being?
Yeah.
Because that is what in Live Your Dream. That's because people don't have that. That's a gift that you have it, but you've also trained it.
Mm-hmm.
through your surf, through your business, through your mother helping.
Mm-hmm.
And what is that feeling that I got to go this way even though I have no freaking reason why I should go that way? Like, what is that in your being?
What else are you gonna do?
But is
just
it's something
just
in
sit
you?
there?
No, but is it a feeling inside
Yeah.
of you? That is it like, it's like meeting
It's
someone
just,
that you.
it's action and like just it's yeah no like like you said, all those things, and then just taking action.
Mm,
It's like you could sit there and be like, oh, you can second guess all your things and do this. Is it the right choice? Like but in the end, it's just like, just do it, because what else are you gonna do? You're just gonna sit there.
action. I heard intentionality, and then and trust the intuition or
Yeah,
gut,
yeah.
and then action.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse my language, but fucking good. Just creator. When it comes to Wavelength, like, what is the impact that what's your vision around it? Like, future, what do you see happening to this amazing
Yeah.
vision that you already started?
It's actually kind of rapidly changing, but to to give you a little rundown, it's the company was built on the idea of making films, like feature films. I love cinematography. I love telling stories. My partner and I came together and created the company to be the foundation of a greater like content development company. So we are attributing all of our skills to businesses in the area and helping people achieve their creative goals and marketing goals, and otherwise helping them get their word out there. But it's also to provide the foundation for creating long form films.
I love it.
So, and then to get into what I was saying about like how that's changing very rapidly, is because the ceiling for what's possible of like high quality, like Hollywood level films is slowly like becoming more and more accessible without having like hundreds of people and millions of dollars of budget and all that stuff. I don't know if you've been following the stuff in AI and video generation. Very like, it's so powerful. Like OpenAI just released their video models. It's like 3D world generation. It's frankly absolutely insane how powerful it is, and it's happening right now. And I can only imagine, 5 years from now, you will be able to make Avengers 4 just by typing. And it'll just generate the scenes, and I don't like how that camera's framed. Let's move camera like to the actor's left, and you just tell it to do that, and it'll just do it. You won't have to actually film it, and it'll be indistinguishable from reality. And so, when we first started, we're like, we're gonna need to like build a huge warehouse and Hope Sound and have sound stages and do all those things. And yeah, we'll probably do that, but it'll serve a different purpose in that you have actors and you film them in like an empty white room, and then you tell the computer to generate them into a moving train or something, and they're immediately transported, and it looks like they're on a train, and they're still acting, because I think that's the one thing that'll never be taken by AI is like the likeness of actors, their ability, the nuances of their acting, their facial expressions, their emotion that day and how they portray that person, their interpretation of a character. I don't think those things will ever be replaced by AI, but I think world building, CGI, all of those things will be. It's already here. You can already do it. You can take a video of a car driving down a road in the desert and say, make this a snowy mountain environment, and the same car will be the same video, but it'll be in a snowy mountain environment, and it's like almost as good as real already.
Scary.
So scary, yes,
scary opportunity.
Exactly. So it really comes down, like what my philosophy on the whole thing is, it's going to make it more and more apparent what makes a good filmmaker or not. And that's the vision, the creativity. It's not the technical know-how. It's not, all of the other things. It's like having a story in your head and pre-visualizing what it should look like, and asking this machine instead of a camera to tell that story. You still have to like know what it should look like, and when you set up a frame, you want that light there, you want this. You still have to know what that should look like in your own vision.
And you have to know how to create a story to create
Yep.
emotion that people connect to.
Exactly.
I mean, that doesn't
There's
go
a technical
away.
aspect. There's the story aspect. There's all of those things. Like, yeah, maybe 10 years from now, you would just say like, story of a boy, learning the kite surf, and he gets taken away in a hurricane and gets found by a fisherman, and it'll literally just make an entire movie out of just that. That's possible. It's possible.
Yeah.
But will it still connect to what you were envisioning? Like, I feel like we're already feeling that with text AI. It's like, yeah, that's kind of what I was going for, but I want to change this, and this.
Of course.
And so it's always going to be that conversation, and just like conversating with a person and trying to, come together on a vision with a person, the same thing's going to happen. It's just going to be artificially intelligent agent.
You got your hands full. But I love the story. I mean, because that's what this is all about. It's like learning from people's journeys and learning how they bring their gifts to the world. But like, there's a story in our journey.
Mm-hmm.
And that my belief is like, we learn about ourselves through our story, and we share with the emotion of like what our story is about. And so I love all of that.
Yep.
What would you think your three greatest, before we end, their three greatest strengths or characteristics that like make you shine?
So much talking about myself. I don't normally do this.
I love it, because this is what we're talking about. We want to talk about what makes Jupiter Wavelengths amazing. And it starts with you and the work you do.
Yeah. So what my three characteristics?
Yeah.
I would say, I think we kind of touched on them. Like, it could almost be like the chapters of this podcast. Yeah, it's my very fortunate childhood, and my parents being super supportive of whether it's water sports or video games, to carrying those skills and allowing them to flourish, and following like what not trying to be something I'm not.
Yeah.
Also, being very aware of like my own strengths, and having my business partner and knowing he has his strengths, and understanding that is super important. Just being like very open to other people's their own unique abilities and talents, and and then also acknowledging my own weaknesses. So yeah.
I love it. If people want to reach out to you, get some magic that you do through marketing or branding or creative work, how do they reach out to you? What's the best?
Yeah, so you can reach out via our website, wavelengthimages.com, or on social media, on Instagram. It's Wavelength Images.
Yeah, he's the real deal. If you need any help in the branding, marketing department, or creative world, I invite you to reach out to Justin. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It was fun.
That was great.